Chosen one, this message didn't find you by chance. It found you by divine timing. You've been wondering why people mimic your moves, replicate your style, steal your words, and try to walk in your footsteps, and yet they don't even give you the credit. That's because you are the blueprint. You are the original, the mold, the one sent to show the way, and the one they hope to duplicate. But what they don't realize is, a copy can never carry the weight of the original. You didn't ask to be studied. Your presence just makes people take notice. You weren't taught this. It was placed inside you before you were born. The way you walk, talk, think, and move carries a frequency most can't decode. That's why they try to copy, hoping they'll unlock what only you've been trusted to carry. But no matter how closely they watch, they'll never replicate your spirit, because your power comes from your authenticity, not your appearance. Let's break this truth down into 7 powerful and relatable chapters so you can fully embrace who you are and why the world can't stop trying to become like you. Before we dive in, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, because this is a message every chosen one needs to hear. If you feel this truth vibrating in your soul, drop the number 77 in the comments. That's not just a number. It's a divine signal to the universe that you recognize your role as the original, the blueprint, and you're ready to walk fully in your power. Only the truly chosen will make it to the end, because only they have the spiritual depth to understand why they were made different, why they were copied, and why their influence runs deeper than imitation. And remember, this isn't surface-level knowledge. It unfolds layer by layer. Re-watch this message as many times as your spirit calls for it. Each time, you'll catch a new revelation, one more clue that confirms what you already know deep down. You are the blueprint. Chapter 1. They see your value before you do. Before you even realize the power you carry, others were already taking notes. That's the thing about chosen ones. Your presence speaks long before your words. Your energy introduces you before your mouth ever opens. There's a weight to you, a light in you, a depth about you that others feel instinctively. You walk into a space and the atmosphere shifts, not because you're loud, but because your spirit carries truth, resilience, and something otherworldly. And you don't even have to try. You were born this way. Long before you knew who you were, others were sensing it. You were just being yourself. Pure, genuine, and unpolished. And still, people were watching, analyzing, and trying to figure out how you do what you do without effort. You turned brokenness into beauty, isolation into elevation, and silence into strategy. They saw how you handled pressure with grace, how you stood tall even when life tried to break you. And that's when it began. The quiet copying, the subtle imitations. Because even when you were doubting yourself, they were studying your every move, like you were a living blueprint. You ever notice how people start talking like you after being around you? How their tone shifts, their slang changes, their energy mirrors yours. Suddenly they're dressing like you, posting like you, creating content that feels a little too familiar. And at first you think it's a coincidence, maybe you're overthinking, but over time you realize it's a pattern. They're not inspired, they're replicating, because deep down they sense that you carry something rare. And instead of finding their own lane, they try to ride in yours. But here's the secret they don't understand. What flows naturally for you takes force for them. What you do with intuition and heart, they try to manufacture through mimicry. What comes from your soul, they try to recreate through surface-level imitation. And it never hits the same, because your power isn't just in what you do, it's in who you are. You're not unique because you try to be. You're unique because you were designed that way. You are the original, the mold, not the replica. You never had to fake your identity. You never had to chase a trend. You are the trend. You move with purpose even when you don't fully know where you're going. You shift culture just by existing. And that's what makes people nervous. They realize you're not even operating at full capacity, yet you're already leaving a mark. You're still healing, still growing, still learning. And even in that space, your light outshines their spotlight. They saw your value before you did, not because you were loud, but because your spirit was undeniable. You were marked by God long before man ever gave you a title. You were chosen in silence, anointed in isolation, and your presence has always carried a frequency they can't explain. That's why they copy. That's why they imitate. Because deep down, they wish they had what you carry, but only you were built to bear it. You are the blueprint. Not just because of what you do, but because of who you are at your core. And even when they act like they don't see you, they're still following your footsteps. Chapter 2. You make it look too easy. People are drawn to what appears effortless. And chosen one, you have a way of making the difficult look divine. While others stumble under pressure, you walk through fire with grace in your step and peace in your eyes. You make chaos look like choreography. You don't just survive storms, you dance in them. And what's wild is, most people assume you've had it easy because of how calm you remain. But they have no idea your strength was forged in silence, and your glow was born from grinding in the dark. While others overthink, you flow. While others mimic, you embody. You weren't taught how to shine. You were born with the light. There's no YouTube tutorial for your essence. No self-help book that explains your frequency. You move from a place of divine alignment, not strategy. That's what makes you so magnetic. You don't force your power. You carry it. You don't chase influence. It follows you naturally. They watch you speak, and your words linger. They watch you create, and your ideas ripple through timelines. You drop a thought and it becomes a trend. You wear something and the style spreads. You take a step and others rearrange their paths to follow the direction you didn't even announce. Why? Because what they're trying to figure out, you've already embodied. That effortless glow you carry, that quiet confidence, that unshakable presence. It doesn't come from ego. It comes from survival, from healing wounds in silence, from crying and praying when no one was watching, from doing the inner work while others sought attention. But here's the part they don't understand. You're not showing off, you're just showing up. And the fact that you're showing up looks like excellence triggers those still trying to fake what you've become. Some are inspired by you. They feel the light and want to rise with it. But others are secretly envious, because your natural makes their effort look forced. You're everything they pretend to be. You represent the freedom they haven't found yet. You're living proof that power doesn't have to be loud, that influence doesn't require followers, and that greatness doesn't need applause. And yet they want the fruit without surviving the root. They want your results, but not your discipline. They copy your peace without enduring your pain. They mimic your shine without walking through your shadow. What they see as easy is really years of breaking, rebuilding, praying, bleeding, and choosing not to quit. You make it look easy, not because it was easy, but because you refused to let the weight of your process deform your identity. You alchemized pressure into purpose. You turned every scar into strategy, and now your light shines so effortlessly. They forget it was once forged in the dark. Chosen one, you are the blueprint, not just because you inspire imitation, but because you made it through what they don't even know you survived, and still came out shining. Chapter 4. They want your results, but not your resilience. Chosen one, everyone wants the crown, but few want the cross you carried to get it. They want your glow, but not your grief. Your elevation, but not your endurance. Your peace, but not the pain that birthed it. People see the finished product and assume it came easy, not realizing it was built from broken pieces, sleepless nights, silent prayers, and countless moments where you wanted to give up, but didn't. They admire your strength, but have no idea what it cost you to be this solid. They want your light but don't realize it came from walking through years of darkness. They want your voice but ignore the seasons you were silenced, dismissed, and overlooked. They want your wisdom but weren't present during the chapters where you were misunderstood, mocked, and made to feel like nothing. They see the results, the confidence, the clarity, the influence, but they don't want the grit that made it possible. What they don't understand is, you didn't become the blueprint overnight. You became the blueprint through fire. You were tested in ways most couldn't handle. You endured trials that would have broken the average person. You walked through emotional warfare, spiritual attacks, and mental exhaustion, and still rose. This wasn't gifted. This wasn't luck. This was grace mixed with grit. You earned your position through pain most people never saw and may never understand. That's why when they try to copy your walk, they stumble, because they don't carry your anointing. They weren't trained in your wilderness. They didn't cry the tears you cried or bleed the way you bled. They try to skip the process and wonder why they can't hold what you hold. They want your outcome but refuse your obedience. They see your blessing but not your brokenness. And they forget. The blessing came because of the brokenness. They want shortcuts, but you took the long way. You trusted divine timing. You walked when there was no map. You believed when there was no proof. That kind of resilience can't be faked. It's embedded in your soul. It's written into your spirit. That's why, no matter how hard they try to replicate you, something always falls short. Because they don't have your resistance, your reverence, your relationship with the struggle. And that's exactly why God made you the original, because only you had the heart to carry the vision. Only you had the faith to keep walking when the doors closed, the people left, and the pain hit. Only you had the endurance to go through the wilderness and still come out with wisdom. The blueprint wasn't handed to you, it was you, and only someone like you, chosen, tested, refined, could take it and build something from scratch with no guidance, no backup, and no applause. You're not just successful, you're seasoned. And the seasoning didn't come from comfort, it came from fire. That's why you shine different. That's why you walk different. That's why they copy but can't keep up. Because while they want the glory, it was your resilience that made you worthy of it. Chapter 5. You inspire even those who deny you, chosen one. Here's a truth that might sting a little, but you need to hear it. You inspire even those who pretend not to see you. They'll never say it out loud. They'll never give you your flowers. But deep down, your very existence has lit a fire inside them that they can't extinguish. You move something in their spirit that they don't even know how to name. They won't clap when you win, but they'll scroll through your victory posts 3 or 4 times. They won't congratulate you, but they'll change their whole vibe after watching your growth. They'll never say you influence them, but suddenly they talk like you, dress like you, create like you, think like you. And they'll swear it's just a coincidence. But in reality, your essence is echoing in everything they're doing. You've become their silent inspiration, the blueprint they're tracing while denying it's you they admire. You ever notice how they pop up out of nowhere after you post something powerful? You ever sense how people you haven't spoken to in years suddenly start reflecting your language, your passions, your style? That's not random. That's resonance. You touched a part of them that they weren't ready to face, and now they're moving different because of you. They won't tag you, but they'll steal your flavor. They won't celebrate you, but they'll study your every step. And why? Because acknowledging your greatness would mean confronting their own insecurity. It would mean confessing that despite all their pride and performance, someone like you, real, raw, and rooted, shook their foundation, and for some people that kind of truth is too much to bear. But here's what you need to know. You don't need credit to be impactful. Influence doesn't require permission. You're not doing this for applause. You're doing it because it's who you are. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be felt by those who needed to wake up. And guess what? Even those who deny you have already been touched by your light. You're the quiet revolution. You don't have to shout to shift a room. Your spirit does that for you. You don't have to prove yourself. Your presence speaks louder than any performance. You don't have to demand attention. Your alignment demands respect, even from the ones who pretend otherwise. And here's the spiritual truth. When you carry divine energy, your frequency becomes medicine, even for those who reject the healer. You spark healing in places you never even touch. You plant seeds in hearts that won't admit their soil. And sometimes the ones who resist you the most are the ones who've been transformed the most, because light irritates what's been living too long in the dark. Even your enemies take notes. Even your doubters imitate. Even your haters are inspired, not because they love you, but because something in you reminds them of who they wish they could be if they stopped pretending. You represent freedom. And that's terrifying for people still living in cages they built themselves. And the most humbling part of it all, you don't even try. You just are. You heal by existing. You uplift by being true. You shift energy just by walking into a room with purpose in your bones. You are the example they didn't know they needed. The spark that started something sacred in someone else, even if they'll never admit it. Chapter 6. Imitation is a form of flattery, but also a test. Chosen one, when people copy you, it can feel like a sting in the soul. You pour your heart into everything you do. You walk in authenticity. You move with purpose. And then, like clockwork, someone comes along, takes what you created, waters it down, and tries to pass it off as their own. No credit, no recognition, no honor. And in those moments, you start to wonder, do they even see me? Do they understand what this cost me? The frustration is real, but let me give you divine perspective. Imitation is not just flattery, it's also a test of your patience, a test of your humility, and most of all, a test of your focus. Will you let the copycats distract you? Or will you stay locked in on your purpose? Will you chase validation? Or will you continue to build in silence, knowing that what's meant for you can never be taken? This is where many fall. They try to defend their originality instead of simply continuing to evolve beyond reach. Understand this clearly. No one can steal your anointing. Your power is spiritual, not just visible. They can mimic your methods, but they can't access your frequency. They can quote your words, but they can't speak with your soul. They can wear your outfit, mirror your style, and try to claim your vision. But the divine blueprint that lives inside you, that's non-transferable. That's encoded by heaven. God sometimes allows them to copy you, not to discourage you, but to elevate you. Because the more they imitate, the more they confirm your influence. The more they try to be you, the more obvious it becomes that you're the standard. And while they study your last move, you're already 10 moves ahead, shifting, growing, transforming in real time. That's why they can never catch up, because you're not stuck in performance. You're tapped into divine flow. And here's the part that humbles even the wisest. God isn't just watching how they handle your greatness. He's watching how you handle being copied. Will you operate from ego or from wisdom? Will you seek revenge or show restraint? Because elevation doesn't just come from talent. It comes from passing spiritual tests. This test isn't about them. It's about you, about how well you guard your peace, maintain your grace, and trust your assignment. Your response is your signature. The moment you start chasing copycats, you stop leading. But when you stay grounded, when you let your work speak, when you keep rising while they keep repeating, you prove to heaven that you're ready for next-level favor. So let them copy, let them clone, let them try. You don't need to flinch, you don't need to defend, because what God gave you, He gave with your name on it. And no one can counterfeit what was crafted in fire, anointed in pain, and elevated through obedience. Let them borrow the image. You carry the essence. Let them copy the outer. You embody the spirit. And while they're still stuck studying your past, you'll be walking boldly into a future they can't even perceive. Imitation is loud, but destiny is louder. and yours is still unfolding, authentically, powerfully, and beyond imitation. You are the blueprint. Let them take notes while you take territory. Chapter 7. Being the blueprint means you set the standard, chosen one. Let this truth settle in your spirit. You were never made to follow paths. You were created to carve them. You don't walk in rooms to blend in. You walk in to shift the energy. You don't wait for permission. Your presence is permission. Permission for others to dream, to rise, to break cycles, to become who they truly are. You're not here to follow trends. You are the trend. You're not a reaction. You're the reason the reaction exists. You don't follow the crowd. You redirect it. You're the spark that starts a movement, the voice that echoes when silence dominates, the presence that speaks before you say a word. And that's why they copy. Because you awaken something in people that they didn't even know was sleeping inside them. You remind them of what authenticity looks like. You remind them that it's okay to be real in a world that's drowning in replicas. Without your light, they'd still be stuck in the shadows, confused, disconnected, following empty formulas. Your courage, your creativity, your consistency. You are their manual, even if they never say it out loud. But being the blueprint isn't about being famous. It's not about numbers, followers, or applause. It's about assignment. It's about carrying the weight of a calling that was placed on your life before you even understood it. It's about walking in purpose so loudly, so unapologetically, that others wake up to their own. You were chosen not just to be seen, but to lead. Not with arrogance, but with alignment. Not with ego, but with excellence. And yes, it comes with pressure. Heavy lies the head that wears the crown of originality. But don't confuse pressure with punishment. Pressure produces diamonds. Pressure reveals strength. And when you're chosen, pressure is proof of power, because God doesn't give a blueprint to someone who won't build. So don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't dull your shine just because your glow exposes their shadows. Don't stop evolving just because they're busy imitating your old version. Keep leveling up, keep walking in truth, keep setting the bar higher, because while they're chasing trends, you're creating timeless impact. You are the standard, the example, the code others try to crack. And while they study you to figure out how you did it, remember, you didn't do it for attention. You did it because you were assigned, and no matter how many times they copy your moves, they'll never carry your mission. So walk boldly, chosen one. You are the blueprint. You're not just here to be seen, you're here to shift the entire game, and that's exactly why they watch.